الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن سار على سبيله إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. So today inshallah ta'ala we will continue discussing the book Al-Mulaqis Al-Fiqhi by Shaykh Salih Fawzan Hafidullah ta'ala, and we are discussing or started discussing matters pertaining to Ahkam Al-Iddah, and these are masahil that relates to that what are the waiting time for a lady after she have ended her marriage. So we have started that discussion, and we discussed regarding concern a marriage may be ended by three ways, either by way of talaq, or by way of al-khul, or by way of fasq. So in each case, and also by the way of the death of the husband. So four ways. So by way of talaq, by way of khula, by way of fasq, and then the fourth way is by way of death of the husband. So each of these ways, depending each of these ways have its own ahkam regarding what is the waiting period for a lady after one of these have passed. So we started discussing some of these, and today inshallah ta'ala we'll continue discussing others. But before we start discussing the others, that a matter, Ahkam al-Iddah, is Ahkam al-Iddah, that a matter that we should have, we are just kind of somewhat at this matter, seeing that we discussed regarding Ahkam al-Huquq and Luhuq al-Nasab, regarding a child being the affiliation of a child to a father due to in certain cases. So our next matter to discuss between the ulama that we just mentioned at this point, whereas a matter regarding concerning a case regarding, as we're discussing concerning cases of zina, that what's the ruling pertaining to marrying a lady if she's pregnant by way of zina. So a lady who have gotten in a relationship outside of marriage, and from that relationship, or that she have become pregnant. Now, is it then allowed for her to get married, whether by way of the person that have gotten her pregnant or someone else? Clear? So this is a matter discussed by the fuqaha regarding these cases. So the cases, a lady getting pregnant, so she's pregnant out of wedlock. Is she allowed to get married? Is she allowed to get married whether to the person who got her married or someone else? So on this matter, that you have the fuqaha that they have distinct, or they have put it into two cases. The first regarding the person and someone outside the one who got her pregnant. Is she allowed to marry anyone at all? So on this matter, you find that of the ulama that they have taken the position that as the position of Abu Yusuf al-Zufur from the ulama of the Hanafiya, also Imam Malik and the Malikiyya, and also the Hanabila, that they have taken the position that it is not allowed for a woman that is pregnant by way of zina, out of marriage, that she's allowed to get married to anyone until she have given birth. So until she have delivered the baby, then she's not allowed to marry anyone, whether the person whether the person that got her pregnant or anyone else. So that's a position taken by those that we have mentioned. And also they mentioned that if she was to get married by anyone, then if the matter has come to the attention of the judge, then the judge should end the marriage and separate both. And if they wish to, but she still receive her mahar, but the marriage they have to be separated until she have given birth, and then either reissue or redo the marriage. So that's the first position taken by the ulama, and of them the Hanabila, and also the Malikiyya, and some of the ulama of the Ahnaf. And they use and that's a position also that is taken from of the Salaf, Ali ibn Abi Talib, from the Sahaba, Aisha ibn Mas'ud, Bara ibn Hazib, Rata'ala anhum, and others. You have Awza'i, Rabi'a, Ishaq, Ibn Shubrama, Ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn Qayyim al-Jawzi. So they have the position that in a case of a woman that is pregnant, then she's not allowed to marry at all anyone until after she have given birth. And they mentioned that, that they're taking this position based upon a hadith where the Prophet ﷺ mentioned this hadith, with the hadith of Abu Sa'id al-Khudri radhiyallahu anhu, where the Prophet ﷺ have stated, لا توت حامل حتى تدع ولا غيرها ولا غير ذات الحمل حتى تحيد حيضة. So they mentioned the hadith state concerning that no one is allowed to have intimacy with a pregnant lady until she have given birth, nor anyone that is pregnant, or those that are not pregnant until after she have had one cycle, until she have had one menstrual cycle. The hadith in the Abu Dawood and also Al-Hakim, and of the ulama who have authenticated that hadith. So that's concerning that position. Another position, the second position on that matter, are the view taken by Abu Hanifa and also Muhammad, his companion, also the taken by the Shafi'iyah and also the Zahiriyah. And among the Sahaba, you have Ibn Umar, you have also Salim, you have Jabir ibn Zayd, and also Sa'id ibn Musayyib from the Salaf, Ata, Ta'us, that they take the position that it is allowed for a woman that is pregnant out of zina, that she can marry, that she's allowed to marry before she gives birth. So it could be done before or after. But in their case, they mentioned she can get married during her pregnancy before she gives birth, and they do not require. Then about of this view, Imam Shafi rahimullah, even though he takes the position is allowed, but his position that yes, she can get married, but she's not allowed to have intimacy until after she have given birth. So she is allowed to get married, but with Shafi rahimullah, Imam Shafi rahimullah, that she's not allowed to have intimacy until after she have given birth. As for the Hanafiya and also the Zahiriyah, then they hold that so the Shafi'iyah hold that she can, that ila jawaz. So the Shafi'iyah, we said what? She can have intimacy before she gives birth. As for the Hanafiya and the Zahiriyah, they take that she cannot have intimacy until after she have been given birth. So again, with the second opinion that we mentioned, that they hold that she's allowed to get married even though she's pregnant, and this pregnancy was outside of marriage by zina, that she's allowed to marry whoever. But the Shafi'iyah, they put a condition that she's still allowed to have intimacy even before giving birth. As for the Hanafiya and the Zahiriyah, that they hold that she's not allowed to have intimacy until she have given birth. Then the next matter of this is the case of getting married to a lady who have committed zina, and she's pregnant to the one that have married her. So the one who have gotten her pregnant. So the one who got her pregnant, is he allowed to marry her? So the first case was anyone. In this case, they mention again a khilaf between the ulama, and also the same of the Malikiyah and the Hanabila, is that again, she's not allowed to marry anyone at all. She's not allowed to marry anyone until she have given birth to the child. And they stipulate she has to make tawbah and the likes, but their general view is that she's not allowed to get married even to the person who got her pregnant. As for the Hanafiya and the Shafi'iyah, that they awlat annahu yajuz, that she's a nikah al-hamil liman zana, that she's allowed to get married to the one who have gotten her pregnant. They mentioned that yajuz lahu, that it is allowed for him, and also it is allowed for him to have intimacy with her. So with the Hanafiya, the one, if the case where, so in the case that the person who got her pregnant, he can marry her, and also he can have intimacy with her. With the Hanafi, that she can get married to other than the person that have gotten her pregnant, but she cannot have, that person cannot have intimacy with her until after she have given birth. So that's the difference between, so that's concerning that particular matter. So it's something you find that these cases, they do occur, even today. In the sense of not in these times, we still have cases where that a person might want to get married, and it is the female is pregnant, is it allowed to marry her? Then you might find of those of the masajid and those who may of the imam of the masajid that some may allow it and some may not do it, based upon the khilaf between the ulama. And said what is the more safer ground is not to do it until after she have given birth. Qawl ahwat, the safer route to come out of the khilaf is not to carry out the nikah until after they have the pregnancy have ended. And Allah mentioned, if those who have given a fatwa to her and have carried out through, then a person or otherwise, then that's with them. You know, he doesn't see it as something at all for him to abrogate the nikah, because they went to someone of ilm and they took that position and advice and they acted upon it. So that's with them, but it's not for a person to take the second view to say the marriage is to annul the marriage, unless it goes to a qadi, unless it goes to a judge. That's concerning that matter as an addition, something of addition regarding the things that we were discussing before. Yala?
You said, the first one when you said that the judge will separate them if they do get married. Is that full divorce or just a separation?
In the sense of divorce, in the sense of separation, that they are divorced. You will annul that marriage, and because they got married into that position at a time that is not allowed.
She has to get married to someone else again?
No, they can remarry. So, but as for that couple that is married, then there will be like annul that marriage between both. Then the marriage can be redone after she have given birth. After she have given birth. So they can remarry after that time. Aywa. So pick up from where we had stopped last week, inshallah. Well, before we stop, we had some homework. Anyone remember? What was the homework? What was the homework? What was the masala? What's the masala? If a woman is pregnant.
If a woman is pregnant and she might be late into her pregnancy,
for
example, and then her partner dies, and then she gives birth the following day, which iddah does she follow? Does she follow the iddah of a widower? Does she follow the iddah of child?
So in any case, so your case regarding as a woman that she finds herself in a situation where that her husband has passed away, and also she's pregnant, which so she have in front of her two iddah, that is the head of her, that to be done. One for the decease of her husband, and also she can go the iddah of, so that the iddah of the divorcee, of not the divorcee for the widow, which would be how much? 4 months and 10 days. Or because she's pregnant, she used the iddah of until pregnancy comes to an end, and that could vary. That could vary. So what was the conclusion? What you found? I'll start from right. Okay, and.
So I found two different opinions. One in which there was a hadith that I haven't written down from Sahih Bukhari, where a woman came to the Prophet after Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, after her husband had passed away, she gave birth afterwards, and then he gave her permission to remarry. But I'd also seen that.
So that view is in line with what?
Hadith.
That hadith is in line with which view?
The
pregnancy.
The iddah that she follows is the one of the pregnancy.
So you follow the one of the pregnancy, not of that of the or of her husband death. Okay. Anything else?
No, he had two. He had another.
That's a second. That's one.
There was a second one. Where one of the Sahaba, maybe I'm not entirely sure. He said along the lines of the longer one.
So the longer of the two. So whichever one is the longer, then you go with that one. Okay, so two opinion that in that case that she goes with the iddah of the childbirth until childbirth, regardless of the time, whether it is short or long. That's the case.
If it's longer than the pregnancy.
That's okay. So if it's longer than the pregnancy, so the first opinion, if you go with childbirth, right?
Yeah.
If the childbirth that it is short than the less than 4 months and 10 days, does she still go with childbirth?
Childbirth, yes.
So for example, say that's the first that. So in that case, regardless, she will go with the childbirth, whether it is longer or shorter.
Yeah.
Okay, and the second opinion is that you go with the longer
The longer of the two.
of the two. Okay, anyone else found anything different?
Well, just the explanation is a bit different. I said the 4 months, 410 days here is specific to everyone. So everyone. And basically, the 9 months here is specific to the one that is pregnant.
Hey.
So I think for the one that is pregnant, so I think the opinion of founder is that the person has to abide by that opinion about the 9 months. 9 months.
So said you have a case to say yes. So said ordinarily that the one that is not pregnant and her husband passed away, then that idda will go for 4 months, 10 days. Now, so we have a case now where that she's now, in this case, she's husband has passed away, but also she's carrying, she's pregnant. So which of the two of the idda she follows?
Yeah. So the opinion of founder is the idda of not opinion of founder. The idda has to be 9 months.
So she go there? Okay, 9 months. So said okay.
Because it's specific to someone that is pregnant.
Okay, so that.
Not anyone.
So said yeah, we answer. So said. So you're saying 9 months. So it's okay. 9 months. That's okay. So this scenario that the hadith he mentions, he says in Sahih Bukhari, and Sahih Muslim, we're concerned to know that a lady that her husband passed away was killed. And so she started her iddah. Then 40 days after, right, she got married. With the Prophet Islam married her. Okay, so 40 days. So she was pregnant and she gave birth. And that pregnancy, that from the time of her husband's death, that she got pregnant, she got married 40 days after. So she haven't yet finished. That wouldn't be 4 months. So said yes. So in any case, then if there's a clash, you can use the word a clash. Then they go with the pregnancy, whether it is longer or shorter. So we said a case where the woman that her husband died last Friday, and she's pregnant. Then the week after, a week have passed, and then she gave birth. So they say now that's a week after his death, she gave birth, right? So so which of them would she follow? Pregnancy, or still have to go through the 44 months and 10 days? Pregnancy. So it could be short and could be longer. Hey, so that's, anyone found anything different? Hey, so that's the qawl. That's the qawl that you go with in that case. Aywa. So that matter, inshallah, clear. Aywa, so we continue from where we had stopped.
Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillahi qala ma'allif hafidhahullah. Chapter 9, waiting period, page 469. Moreover, there is no legal text or proof to differentiate between consummated and unconsummated marriages in this respect. There are 6 kinds of women in their waiting period. Number 1, the pregnant widow or the pregnant divorced woman. Number 2, the non-pregnant widow. Number 3, the divorced woman who still has a monthly menstrual period. Number 4, the divorced woman who does not have a monthly menstrual period due to young age or menopause. Number 5, the divorced woman who no longer has her monthly menstrual period without an apparent reason. Number 6, the wife of a missing man. Concerning the pregnant widow or the pregnant divorced woman, her waiting period lasts until she gives birth, for Allah exalted be He says, and for those who are pregnant, their term is until they give birth. Surah At-Talaq, Ayat 4. The noble verse indicates that the waiting period of the pregnant woman ends when she gives birth. Some of the Salaf, early Muslim scholars, maintain that the pregnant widow must consider the longer period, either until she gives birth or until 4 months, 10 days pass. However, afterwards, Muslim scholars unanimously agreed that the waiting period for the pregnant woman ends when she gives birth, whether she is divorced or a widow.
Yes, and no matter you find out, so the brothers that I mentioned, the hadith in Bukhari Muslim, plus also there's an ijma. So the matter somewhat now regarding concern. So that's the matter that we're discussing. So in that matter you have dalil by way of hadith, and also eventually you find that there's an ijma, a consensus between the ulama that she goes with until, or idda will be until she has given birth. Aywa.
However, the waiting period prescribes for the pregnant woman does not end if she miscarries and her embryo is a mere unformed lump of flesh. The waiting period of the pregnant woman ends when she gives birth to a newborn that belongs to the separated by divorce, death, etc. husband. Thus, her waiting period does not end if she gives birth to a child that does not belong to the separated husband. For example, if the husband cannot have children due to a congenital defect or young age, or when the child is born alive in a period of pregnancy less than 6 months after consummating their marriage, this child does not belong to this separated husband. Therefore, their waiting period does not end by giving birth in such cases. The minimum period of pregnancy is 6 months, as Allah exalted be, He says, and when gestation and waning period is 30 months. Surah Ahqaf, ayat 15.
Sorry, Omar. So do we take from that when we speak about a waiting period for a woman who gives birth less than this time, then what does she do? So her husband dies.
But it's got in pregnancy.
Yeah, pregnancy. But it emphasizes that it has to be a formed baby. So say she is pregnant and the baby didn't form, as I mentioned.
Hey.
So the pregnancy and the waiting period in that specific case doesn't apply because the baby didn't form as of
Hey, it's going to go to 6 months. At the least period for pregnancy will be 6 months.
Okay, so we go to the least period.
Hey, so go to the least period.
Anything below that,
Then you wait.
then she waits. She does the death, the widower period.
No, she can still go to a hamel, but in this case, the least period for pregnancy that is given. We said that we discussed regarding the least and the most last week. So least, we did that they mentioned to know that a pregnancy, I said they say 6 months, right? So if something was to happen before then we just still count, still wait until 6 months have passed for her to consider to have gone the least amount of time for pregnancy. So for example, her situation occurred in 4 months. So that is still below the 6 months. So in that case, she'll wait another 2 months until that 6 months have passed. And not old.
That's what I'm trying to say. So her waiting period now goes to 6 months.
Hey, go to 6 months.
Even though she gave birth at 4.
Hey, even as
So
a,
it's not specifically.
hey, that's a call that he owes, that a call that he view, you understand, regarding concerns this matter, that because they give that least time for pregnancy, but I said if the pregnancy is there, like I said, regardless, you understand, that's the thing, so the general thing concerning, as long as the child is there, regardless of the time, then the child is there. So that will be the pregnancy has come to an end. That's the thing, but because they put a least,
Because of this for
hey, because after, that's what they extract from the ayah, type of thing. So if those cases occur, it will be rare cases, but they kind of somewhat, this case, discuss those rare cases that may occur. What will be the iddah for such a person? Would it still go to 6 months? Or from the time the child has been born, is that, then that's the asl. The asl that from the time the child is delivered, then that's the asl. That's the thing.
So Omar, I don't understand the relevance. It says, look, the minimum period of pregnancy is 6 months. As Allah exalted be, He says, and his gestation and weaning period is 30 months.
And have a calculation they did concerning that. So you have 30 months. 30 months is so then you have 30 months, and they said the weaning part is up to 2 years. So if you have 2 years to 30 months, then an extra like 6 months. So that's what they put 6 becomes you understand? So the weaning is 2 years, will be 24 months, and the 30 months. So you can somewhat subtract, then you remain at at 6. That's how they come to the conclusion that, they give 6 as the minimum for pregnancy.
And it actually says that in the next ayah, if I was just patient.
So, does it clarify when the 6 months is in effect? When is the minimum in effect? And when's the maximum?
And so from the time that 6 months is from the time of pregnancy.
Or the starting of pregnancy?
From the start of pregnancy until the next 6 months, then that will be, from the start of pregnancy. And said, like in our days, the doctors can be more precise regarding pregnancy. You understand? But it was pregnant from the time that the pregnancy, then that's when it starts. Not precisely the time that you may be aware of it.
Oh, okay.
You understand? So you might know later on, some know months, weeks after, but it actually counts from the time of pregnancy. Anyway.
And mothers may nurse, i.e. breastfeed their children 2 complete years. Surah Baqarah, ayat 233. If we subtract the period of breastfeeding, 24 months, from the 30 months, the remaining is 6 months, which is the minimum period of pregnancy. And there is no child that can live if born in less than 6 months after conception. Muslim scholars differ on determining the maximum period of pregnancy.
The case would be in a case that, for example, they have stillborn or premature. So premature, and it is 5 months old. Like at times that.
I got two nieces that before this time.
Some say that in that case now with the science that we have, or not the science, but what we have available regarding the medical, we call it medical science that they have today, that they can somewhat keep the child in a certain type of incubators. You understand? So the child remain in the hospital, but still being treated in helping develop their lungs and their body type of thing. So they remain in the hospital until they're ready. You understand? So even though they may be below 6 months, they still can keep that child and look after that child, feed them and all that until they are fit enough to go. You understand? So with that mindset, that's what a mother would consider to be realistically, she have given birth, and the child is 5 months, and the child is still alive. You understand? So does she still need to wait for 6 months before, you understand? So that's the thing. So that matter require, you understand that? So those matters require that to see concerned, that to be looked into. Those matters to be looked into, which is going back to the ulama regarding those cases. What will be the ruling?
Do you know of a ruling?
Answer that I haven't checked. So I'm not saying that it most likely say that is I haven't checked or asked, but it's something now to ask and to double check. Anyway.
The most preponderant view is that this period depends on the actual cases that have already occurred. Amuwafaq ibn Qudama said, when there is no legal text, you must resort to the actual cases, and some cases of pregnancy have been reported to last for 5 years and more. However, the common period of pregnancy is 9 months, for most women give birth after 9 months of conception. It is impossible to harm or assault the embryo, as it is highly protected in Islamic Sharia, Islamic law. If the embryo, after the soul has been breathed in it, is miscarried and dies due to an assault against it, blood, money and expiation are obligatory upon the criminal.
So the case regarding concern the embryo, if they have reached that period, where the soul is blown into it, then it becomes like it's now treated like a person, like a full person. So even though it's still an embryo inside of the womb, it's still treated as a person because it now has a soul. So if that child was to be harmed, then as if you're harmed a person, a person, and the rule of harming a person will apply. So that's different from aborting at that time. So that after the soul is in it, then it is treated. That fetus now is treated as a person. So that's concerns. That's the matter where you got to know that in Islamic in matters regarding hudud, then it is treated as a person. It is treated as a person. أيوة.
If the pregnant woman deserves the legal punishment of lashing or that of stoning to death, it must be postponed until she gives birth. Also, it is impermissible for the pregnant woman to cause herself to miscarry by taking medicine or the like. These rulings indicate the comprehensiveness of the Sharia that observes and protects the rights of the embryos. Then all praise is due to Allah, Lord of the worlds, for His granting us this just and comprehensive Sharia. We ask Allah to help us adhere to His Sharia and be sincere to Him in religion, although the disbelievers dislike it.
Yes, that's going to show that, that the fetus, even after that, it have rights. It have rights by way of not to be harmed by others, nor even by the parents itself, by the mother. And doing so, the person have done something which is wrong and can be prosecuted for this, for this. After 120 days. So after that, 3 months or 120 days, when the soul have been placed into, there's not.
I did 4 months. 3 months or 4 months?
120. So what maybe my calculation is wrong, but 4 months. So after that period, then it's treated as a person. Now, and have a certain type of, it have rights. It have rights. أيوة. أيوة. تفضل.
Concerning the non-pregnant widow, her waiting period is 4 months and 10 days, whether her husband has died before or after the consummation of marriage, and whether she is fit to have sexual intercourse or not. This is because Allah exalted be He says, and those who are taken in death among you and leave wives behind, they, the wives, shall wait for 4 months and 10 days. Surah Baqarah, ayat 234.
So the second case regarding those women that are غير الحامل, that so those that are not pregnant, then in those cases ordinarily that their iddah, that their waiting period, if their husband have passed away, that it goes to 4 months and 10 days. 4 months and 10 days. That means that from the time of their death. So from the time of the death of the husband, then that will be their waiting part, their waiting time. And I mentioned it's concerned of what? Whether the husband, so that's considered that's their waiting time in general. So without a distinction regarding whether that they have consummated or not. So the fact that they have an act of nikah, a marriage that have taken place, whether he been with her or not been with her, that the fact that the marriage have taken place, then that will be her waiting period of 4 months and 10 days. Aywa.
Ibn al-Qayyim said, the waiting period prescribed for the widow is obligatory, whether her marriage has been consummated or not, according to the generality of the legal texts in the Noble Quran, the Sunnah, as well as the unanimous agreement of Muslims. The waiting period is for the widow is not merely intended for making sure of her pregnancy, nor is it an absolute act of worship, since every ruling in the Sharia has its wisdom which is understandable to some and ambiguous to others. Al-Wazir and other scholars stated, scholars unanimously agree that the waiting period for the non-pregnant widow is 4 months and 10 days. As for the widowed slave girl, she must observe half the waiting period of the free widow, that is 2 months and 5 days, including 5 nights. This is because the Prophet's companions, radiallahu anhum, unanimously agreed that the divorced slave girl must observe half the waiting period prescribed for the free woman, and so is the ruling on the widowed slave girl compared to that of the free widow. Al-Muwaffaq ibn Qudama said, this is the view of the majority of scholars, such as Malik, al-Shafi'i, and scholars of interpretative opinions.
Ashab al-Rahi, they are the Ahnaf. So they mention Ashab al-Rahi. So in most part, I mean by Ashab al-Rahi will be the Ahnaf. Aywa.
Al-Muwaffaq ibn Qudama also said in his book entitled Al-Mubdi, the Creative, the companions unanimously agreed that the widowed slave girl must observe half the waiting period prescribed for the free widow woman. Otherwise, the verse states a general ruling concerning both the slave and free woman.
So the hadith answer from the discussion regarding that a lady that is not pregnant and her husband has passed away. So if it's a normal, a free woman, then it is clear regarding her waiting period. As for the woman who is a slave girl or a slave, what would be her waiting period? In that case, it was the same length of time as that of the free woman, or is somewhat different. So you find that in the ahkam, that is less. So they mentioned that the ulama, amongst from the Sahaba and those who came after, that they agreed upon that it is half the amount of waiting time of that of the free woman.
There are some rulings pertaining to the widow. The widow must spend her prescribed waiting period in the house where she was staying at the death of her husband, and it is impermissible for her to leave this house except for a legal reason. As the Prophet ﷺ said to a widow, "Stay at your home." In another narration, he ﷺ said, "Stay during the waiting period in the house where you were informed of your husband's death," related by the compilers of the Sunnah.
Yes, that hadith that is mentioned here, hadith that some discussion regarding the hadith, but overall concerning that they mentioned hadith in Abu Dawood, Tirmidhi, and At-Tirmidhi rahimahullah, or the hadith to be Hasan al-Sahih, and also Ibn Hajar rahimahullah. I've mentioned that of the ulama, you have At-Tirmidhi rahimahullah, authentic hadith, also Al-Dhuhali, Ibn Hibban, also Ibn Mulakkin, Ibn Qayyim al-Albani. So you find of the ulama of authentic hadith, then you find those also the hadith to be daif, of them Ibn Hazm, and also Abdul Haq al-Ishbili. So Abdul Haq al-Ishbili and Ibn Hazm, that they take the hadith to be daif due to that in the hadith you have one of the narrators who is Zainab bin Kab, that all that discuss regarding her, and also another discussion of the narrator who's Sa'd ibn Ishaq. So Sa'd ibn Ishaq, that I mentioned that is not like of adala, or she's unknown and he have no adala. So you have a discussion regarding the authenticity of the hadith, but overall majority, as we mentioned, all the hadith to be sahih, contrary to the view taken by Ibn Hazm al-Zahiri and also Abdul Haq al-Ishbili. And the hadith they mentioned, it is one hadith with different wordings, slight difference in wordings, but the same hadith. So the same hadith, but slight difference in wording. Aywa.
However, if the widow is obliged to move into another house, she is permitted to go wherever she desires in order to avert any harm. For example, she can leave the house if she fears for herself from staying there, or is forced to leave it, or if the house is rented and its owner asks her to leave or asks her for her rent. It is permissible for the widow to go out from her house for her needs during the daytime, not at night when evil incidents are expected. For the Prophet ﷺ said to the widows observing waiting periods, "Talk as much as you want at the home of one of you, and when you want to sleep, then every one of you should return to her home."
And that hadith they mentioned, so they're discussing regarding of the hakam regarding concerning of the widow, that of those things that she tries that she stay within her house, and also that only in case of necessity or certain dire cases, then she's allowed to go to other place, as he mentioned, due to certain circumstances she cannot remain in her normal house. Then I mentioned also of the ahkam that she should not per se move around, go out, except in case of needs, except for case of needs, and to do so during the day and not so in the night. Then he mentioned regarding the hadith that had been mentioned here regarding, as for this hadith that is mentioned, that the hadith here is in the al-Bayhaqi and others, but there's some discussion, but so the hadith is daif. That is hadith is that is mentioned here, that this hadith is daif regarding that. So the hadith is mentioned is somewhat weak, about during the night they should stay in and only allowed to go out during the day, but the hadith is daif. Aywa.
Moreover, it is obligatory for the widow to show the signs of her mourning by avoiding all that which may arouse others' desires towards her or make her attractive to look at. With regard to this, the great scholar Imam Ibn Qayyim, may Allah have mercy on him, said, "This, the widow's mourning over her late husband, indicates the perfection and wisdom of the Islamic Sharia and how it thoroughly looks after the interests of Muslims. Mourning to the deceased signifies the big disaster of death which people used to exaggerate excessively during the pre-Islamic period of ignorance. During such days, the widow used to stay in the worst and smallest house without touching perfume, applying oil to her body, and taking a bath or such like acts that indicate dissatisfaction with the divine predestination. Out of His mercy, Allah, exalted be He, has nullified this way of mourning observed by the people of the pre-Islamic period of ignorance and substituted patience, thankfulness, and turning back to Allah by saying, indeed we belong to Allah, and indeed to Him we will return. Since the disaster of death naturally causes pain and sadness to the people of the deceased, Allah, the wise, the acquainted, allows them, the relatives other than the wife, to show only a few signs of mourning that last for 3 days, only in order to provide them with comfort and release their sadness. So mourning is prohibited after these 3 days, as it is considered a prospective evil. What is meant here is that Allah permits women to mourn over their deceased other than the husband for 3 days. However, mourning over the husband is related to the waiting period, as it is considered of its necessities and complementary practices. As for the pregnant widow,
so they mentioned regarding concerning. So as for this the deceased, if one of family members have died, then for the female, that their time of mourning can last for 3 days, and also mention, right, that for the widow it can exceed this. So then also it shows regarding that they mentioned ihdad to be discussed next regarding concerning what is allowed regarding mourning and what can be done regarding mourning. That will be discussed inshallah ta'ala separately, or the next chapter to follow, or soon to follow. So Islam shows that it is allowed to mourn, but there's rules and regulation regarding that, and we'll cover those things later. So then in case with as for the iddah, then it's more for the widower, for the one who's the widow. Aywa.
I think Sheikh's way.
Then Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu rasulillah, wabad. So here author rahimahullah discussing or include regarding this matter of al-iddah for the one who have the wife or husband has passed away, that they also include some of the matter they call ihdad. So regarding concerning what are those things, the do's and don'ts of the widow, what she's allowed to do and not do, is somewhat including those things as a part of the iddah. So during this time of the iddah, then there's certain also things that she has to be mindful of and conscious of regarding during this time. So he also include some of those things regarding the way that she dress and how she staying in the house. These are the things that also applies to the widow. Aywa.
As for the pregnant widow, she ends her obligatory mourning as soon as she gives birth to her child. Her mourning is restricted to her waiting period and is complementary to it, and one of its rulings and obligations. Therefore, her mourning is obligatory as long as she is still in her waiting period. Imam Ibn Qayyim then said, a woman needs to adorn herself to be lovely for her husband. When he dies and she is still in a waiting period and cannot be the wife of another man, she must be prevented from doing what a woman does for her husband, in order to observe the right of the deceased husband by preventing herself from another man until the decreed waiting period ends. This also helps block the means to desire men or be desired by men if she adorns herself. Therefore, the widow in her waiting period must avoid adorning herself by applying dyes, henna, and the like. She must not wear any jewelry, apply any perfume, or wear any adorned clothes, as she has to wear only unadorned ones. However, there is no special clothing for the mourning period, and hence the widow can wear her usual clothes except the adorned ones. When her waiting period is over, she has no legal obligation to say or do anything, unlike what common people think. The waiting period prescribed for the woman who no longer expects menstruation is 3 months. For Allah exalted be He says, and those who no longer expect menstruation among your women, if you doubt, then their period is 3 months. Surah At-Talaq, Ayat 4.
So the author, rahimahullah, or hafidullah, sorry, so the author, hafidullah, now discussing another category of women regarding their waiting period, which is those women considered ayasa, which is those women, ayasa, those ones that does not have a cycle, those ones that does not per se have a regular cycle, or that their cycle or their waiting period would be counted by months, not by their cycle.
The prescribed waiting period for a divorced woman who is not pregnant and still has menstrual periods is 3 menstrual periods. For Allah exalted be He says, divorced women remain in waiting, i.e. do not remarry for 3 periods, and it is not lawful for them to conceal what Allah has created in their wombs. Surah Baqarah, ayat 228. This noble verse indicates that the divorced woman must observe a waiting period of 3 menstrual periods, and then she can remarry if she likes. The word periods mentioned in the verse refers to the menstrual periods as related from Omar ibn Khattab, Ali ibn Abu Talib, and Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with them all. The Prophet ﷺ used the same word to refer to the same meaning as he ﷺ said to a woman in a state of istihada, i.e. a woman having vaginal bleeding other than menstruation. When your menstruation comes, do not perform prayer.
So the author, hafidullah, now discussing another category of women regarding those women that have cycle. So they have a regular cycle, then for them, then their iddah would be, counting of their cycles would be 3 cycles. So that's 3 cycles, the end of it, then our iddah have come to an end. So at the end of it, that's so we have a discussion. So at the end, where you find also the Sheikh is kind of highlighting that the discussion between the ulama regarding qur, regarding concerning al-qur, does it mean it means the start of a cycle and the end meaning tuhur. So it means qur, it means al-hayd at the time that it starts, or it could be taken as the end, which is tuhur, when she ends her cycle. So which is intended for a time, so mean that when she actually starts, when it begins, everything comes to an end, or at the end of her cycle, when it's time for her to purify herself. So what is intended, that what is meant is that what is meant by this, that it comes to an end at the end of her cycle when she have taken her bath. So the end, when she have taken her bath, then that's the end of the cycle, and at that time, then her iddah have come to an end.
So we've got three basically situations here. We've got the normal menstruating woman, 3 periods. The one whose husband's died, 4 months, 10 days.
Aye.
The one who's pregnant, the length of pregnancy.
Aye.
The one who's pregnant and husband dies, the length of pregnancy.
Aywa, that's 4.
And then, oh sorry, I said 3 in it, sorry, 5, one more. And the woman who no longer has menstrual cycles.
Then she count, use months.
Then it was.
So the one who does not have a cycle,
She does 3 months.
it is 3 months.
Okay.
So she does count 3 months. So from that day, for example, whichever day or whichever set a date, from that time, that day until the next 3 months, then it is counted in that fashion. I want to stop. Is the next discussion? I want to stop here because the time.
Shall finish this page.
Okay, and I finished. You can. Okay.
Moreover, these 3 menstrual periods must be complete, and thus, if the woman is divorced during her menstrual period, this period will not be counted as one of the 3 menstrual periods prescribed for her as a waiting period. It is worth mentioning that though divorce is prohibited during
So
the
meaning,
menstrual period,
if a husband wants to divorce his wife and she's in her cycle, she's having her cycle and they divorce her, that one is not counted. So that one doesn't count as one of her 3. He has to wait until she comes clean and then have her next cycle, then it starts. Aywa.
the prescribed waiting period for the divorced slave girl is only 2 menstrual periods. For the Prophet ﷺ said, the waiting period of the slave woman is 2 monthly periods. This is the opinion of Omar, his son Abdullah ibn Omar, and Ali ibn Abu Talib, and no one of the Prophet's companions opposed this opinion. Thus, this ruling makes an exception of the generality indicated by the Quranic verse, divorced women remain in waiting, i.e., do not remarry for 3 periods. Surah Baqarah, ayat 228. According to the analogical deduction, the waiting period of the slave girl is half that of the free woman, i.e., 1.5 menstrual periods. Yet, as the menstrual period cannot be divided, thus the waiting period of the slave girl is 2 menstrual periods.
Hey, so that's concerning that. So that concerning the slave woman, then her menstrual cycle would be 2 months, or not? Sorry, 2 months. 2 cycle would be 2 cycle. Then, as for the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, then that narration going back to the Prophet ﷺ, that is marfu, it is daif. So the narration going back to the Prophet ﷺ, they are daif. Is more so the aqwal, which is the hadith of Ibn Omar, and also what have been mentioned by other of the Sahaba. That so this narration mentioned al-Qur al-Ama Haydathain. That's more the statement of the Sahabi Ibn Omar, not the statement of the Prophet ﷺ. So the hadith going back to the Prophet ﷺ on this matter is daif, as mentioned by Al-Bayhaqi and also Daraqutni, that what is correct is the statement of Ibn Omar, not the statement of the Prophet ﷺ regarding that the iddah for the slave girl is 2 cycle. Aywa.
As for the divorced woman who does not have a monthly menstrual period due to menopause or young age, her waiting period is 3 months. This is according to the noble verse, and those who have no longer expect menstruation among your women, if you doubt, then their period is 3 months. And also for those who have not menstruated, Surah At-Talaq, ayat 4.
That's the end of the page.
That's the end?
Yeah.
Okay. What's today's date?
25th.
Two scenarios. Okay.
Scenario, a woman, husband is missing for a set number of weeks.
For a time.
She's found him dead. And then she tells her that he's been found dead. When does the iddah begin? The moment he's found dead.
From the time that he's found dead,
Yeah.
from the time that he's pronounced as dead, then from it starts from then.
Second scenario, when a woman has miscarriage, whatever, after a number of weeks or months, how does the iddah period then change in that sense? It ends?
So if you have a miscarriage, and so they go back to that if it is below 6 months, you understand, then that will be the case concerned. So what I'm looking at, if it's a case where she have delivered a child, she have given birth to a child on the 6 months, then her iddah will go with that child because a child has been delivered. If it's we call it a stillborn type of thing, then the child is born alive and still but under 6 months, then that's the case will be looked into. Then you have the case of stillborn, then if it is she may continue until 6 months. So Allahu Alam, but something to be looked into further. But I think it would be mentioned, it just to look it up and to get the precise hukum on those matters. So inshallah ta'ala, next week inshallah we'll try to find something.